The State of Yuan Shu rose to prominence following the collapse of the Han government. Yuan Shu declared himself emperor in 197, 2 years before his death under the short-lived Zhong Dynasty. It suffered because his audacious actions meant neighbouring warlords could now easily justify their attacks on him. Yuan Shu's forefathers had been a prominent force within the Han government for over 4 generations. They produced numerous members in high positions since the 1st century AD, one of which was Yuan An, who was regarded as the founder of the powerful Yuan clan of Runan, one of the leading noble families within the Han Empire. Yuan Shu and Yuan Shao were the sons of the Minister of Works Yuan Feng, and although Shu is sometimes described to be a younger cousin, he is actually Yuan Shao's younger half-brother. As a young man from Runan Commandery, Yuan Shu gained a reputation for his bravery and liked to go hunting with dogs and falcons. He was nominated into civil service and became a gentleman of the palace interior, though he often shifted posts in and out of the capital. At one point, he became the intendant of Hainan and a general of the household as rapid as a tiger. Yuan Shao was also from the same county within Runan. He was more serious in appearance and respected men of talent regardless of their background. His exact parentage was the source of some controversy. His mother was originally a servant of Yuan Feng, and when she gave birth to Yuan Shao, she was elevated from a servant to a concubine. Shao went on to be adopted by Yuan Feng's older brother who lacked a male heir. This act would have infuriated Yuan Shu, as his own mother, who was also a concubine, held a higher status than that of Yuan Shao's, who had now become the highest ranking male of his generation. He enjoyed more privileges than Shu, despite the latter being a blood-related member of the clan. When they later became involved in disputes, Shu used Shao's mother as an excuse to claim he was not a true son of the Yuan family. Shu had another older brother called Yuan Yi, and a sister that married Yang Biao, whose clan was of equal prestige to the Yuan's. This makes Yang Xiu Yuan Shu's nephew. His first prominent action was recorded in 189, when he led 200 of his Rapid Tiger guards to replace the guards of the Yellow Gate. This was an effort to remove the eunuchs from power, done at the command of He Jin, who was assassinated either just before the guards were replaced or quickly after. When the Han forces learned of He Jin's death, they stormed the capital and started slaying the eunuchs. Yuan Shu was furious, and so burned down the Xing Suo gates of the Jiade Hall in an attempt to force out Duan Gui from hiding, but he managed to escape with the young emperor. He led Liu Bian and Liu Xu along the covered way from the southern palace to the northern one, but was accosted by Liu Ji on the way. When Dongzhuo seized the capital, he tried to appease Yuan Shu by making him the general of the rear and sent him to Nanyang Commandery. Fearful, Yuan took his new troops but decided to leave his service in the end, whilst possibly harbouring a dislike towards his new post. Within a few months, he had joined up with the Guangdong coalition against Dongzhuo, which was being led by Yuan Shao. At Nanyang, he gathered more troops, most notably the military officer Sun Jian, who had recently killed Nanyang's administrator Zhang Zi. Yuan Shu met him at Luoyang, where he was training his troops, so Yuan recruited him, and vouched for his promotion. They were most likely cautious of each other's armies, and the fact that they could start fighting over Nanyang Commandery with Dongzhuo still in the picture. It's claimed the inspector of Jing province, Liu Biao, petitioned for Yuan Shu to administrate Nanyang, but it could have been its previous inspector Wang Rui, who was also recently killed by Sun Jian. He soon left for battle, where with each victory, Yuan's fear he would no longer submit to him grew, so Yuan decided to temporarily, secretly, cut off his food supplies. Yuan was later shamed personally for this by an overstretched Sun Jian who had travelled all the way back to deal with the situation himself. Dongzhuo was eventually forced west to Chang'an by Sun Jian's men, who had also found the imperial seal, which compelled Yuan Shu to hold Lady Wu as a hostage in order to force Sun to pass the seal on to him. With zero support, it became fruitless for Sun Jian to remain at Luoyang. The Yuan's power struggle against one another marked the end of the anti-Dongzhuo coalition when the brothers each established opposing alliances. Yuan Shu allied with Gongsun Zan, whilst Yuan Shao allied with Liu Biao. Yuan Shu brandished Yuan Shao as a family slave, which predictably angered him. In 191, in retaliation, he named Zhou Yu as inspector of Yu province, a title Sun Jian was entitled to. He was sent to attack Sun Jian's territories whilst he was away. This led to the Battle of Yangcheng, of which Yuan Shu was victorious. Yuan Shu's leadership in Nanyang was despotic. It had a large taxable population, but he only acted spoilt and wanted even more. He pushed heavier taxes onto the people during this time of war, and very quickly earned their resentment. Lu Bu arrived one day with a few hundred horsemen, where two separate accounts describe their interaction. One claims that Lu Bu was treated well, but he plundered the lands which made Yuan uneasy, so he had to leave. The other claims Lu Bu expected to be treated well for slaying Dong Zhuo, but he was detested by Yuan Shu, who refused to accept him. It should be noted that years later, Chen Gui recalled how Yuan Shu rejected Lu Bu when he first sought shelter under him, which loosely supports the second account. Next, he ordered his armies to march south against Liu Biao, where he lost his best general Sun Jian in the Battle of Xiang Yang. During this defeat, Liu Biao was able to cut off his supply route, which then forced Yuan Shu to flee to Chen Liu in 192 in an attempt to extend his influence into Yang province. He received support from the remnants of the Heishan bandits and Yu Fu Luo, then garrisoned his general Liu Xiang at Guangting. They were all very badly defeated by Cao Cao, who had support from Yuan Shao, whereafter Yuan Shu was chased all around until he eventually settled at Shuchun in early 193. From his new headquarters, he built up a powerful state. He deposed the inspector of Yang province Chen Wen, then took his title, and proclaimed himself as lord over Shu province. The Yuan brothers' cousin, Yuan Yi, arrived under Yuan Shao's nomination to be the new inspector to replace Chen Wen. He was killed in Pei Commandery en route to assume office. In 194, Sun Ce came to meet with Yuan Shu, requesting to assume command of his father's old unit. Yuan was surprised to see him but declined his request. Sun Ce was sent to Danyang instead to rally his own troops there. After an initial setback due to bandits, Sun Ce almost lost his life, so returned to Yuan Shu, who granted him 1,000 soldiers this time. Yuan also promised Ce that he would be the administrator of Xiujiang Commandery, but he went back on his word and appointed Chen Ji instead. He also made plans to attack Shu province, so requested grain supplies from Liu Xiang's administrator Liu Kang, who refused to send aid. Sun Ce held a grudge against him as they had once battled before, so he was sent by Yuan Shu and successfully conquered the commandery. Before he left, Yuan told him, "It was my mistake to appoint Chen Ji, and now I often regret not abiding by my original decision. If you defeat Liu Kang, Liu Xiang will truly be yours." Yuan broke his promise again when Liu Xun was assigned the role instead of Sun Ce, so he became even more disappointed with his lord. In the same year, the imperial court appointed Liu Yao as the inspector of Yang province, but Shuchun was its capital and was occupied. Fearing Yuan Shu, Liu Yao moved the provincial capital to Xue County instead and met with Wu Jing and Sun Ben, who helped him establish a base. Yuan Shu's grand ambition became obvious when he ordered his forces to start conquering nearby commanderies and counties. Wu Jing and Sun Ben were then forced out of Xue County, as Liu Yao didn't trust their allegiance. They soon returned, however, under Yuan Shu's orders to recapture the area. Yuan Shu sent Sun Ce and his uncle Wu Jing to Jiangdong, where they conquered many territories on their lord's behalf. Yuan Shu continued to contest Liu Yao's title of inspector over Yang, so the imperial court promoted Liu to the governor of Yang province. Yuan Shu then appointed Hui Shi as the new inspector and sent him along to join with Wu Jing's attack. With Liu Yao's new promotion, he was able to rally thousands of troops to defend his territories, until Sun Ce eventually met him in battle, which forced him to flee. The conflict Yuan Shu caused turned Liu Yao and Sun Ce against each other, as their families used to get along. Liu died in regret, never having the chance to re-establish friendships with Sun Ce. Yuan Shu was less successful in expanding his rule in Shu province. When he heard that Lu Bu was in the area, he wrote to him, proposed a marriage between his son and Lu Bu's daughter, and then said, "In the past, Dong Zhuo monopolized state power, harmed the imperial family, and murdered my family. I participated in the campaign against him, but did not manage to kill him. You slew Dong Zhuo and sent me his head. In doing so, you helped me take revenge and salvage my reputation. This was the first favour you did for me. Later, you attacked Cao Cao in Yan province, and helped me regain my reputation. This was the second favour you did me. Throughout my life, I have never heard of the existence of Liu Bei, but he started a war with me. With your mighty spirit, you are capable of defeating Liu Bei, and this will be the third favour you do me. With these 3 favours you did me, I am willing to entrust matters of life and death to you, even though I may not be worthy. You've been fighting battles for a long time, and you lack food supplies. I hereby send you 200,000 hu of grain to open my doors to you. If they are insufficient, I will continue to provide a steady flow of supplies. If you need weapons and military equipment, just ask." Lu Bu was delighted and agreed to help Yuan Shu's attack. He set his eyes on Xia Pi, but Liu Bei had led his troops to counter the advance and stopped his forces at Shu Yi and Huai Yin. They had a standoff for about a month without any decisive result. Liu Bei had to retreat when Lu Bu seized Qiapi, but many of his men abandoned him along the way. He went east to Guangling instead, where Yuan Shu's forces defeated Liu's starving troops and forced them to flee once more. This took place around early 196. As Lu Bu was displeased that Yuan Shu's supplies hadn't reached him yet, he led his men to welcome Liu Bei instead, granted him a title, and then garrisoned him at Xiaopei. In late 196, Yuan Shu sent Ling with 30,000 troops to attack Liu Bei. Lu Bu was advised to take this chance to defeat Liu Bei with Yuan Shu, but he refused, as he did not want the Yuans to surround him. He sent 1,000 foot soldiers and 200 riders to help Liu Bei. Ling withdrew his forces and did not dare make any move when he heard that Lu Bu was approaching. Lu set up a camp southwest of Xiaopei and hosted a feast for Ling, who then returned the favour. Lu Bu went there and brought Liu Bei along with him and then vouched for him as his younger brother. He planted a halberd at the gate of the camp and said, "Gentlemen, watch me fire an arrow at the lower part of the curved blade. If I hit it in one shot, all of you must withdraw your forces and leave." After he fired an arrow exactly at the lower part of the curved blade, everyone present at the scene was shocked. After paying their compliments to Lu Bu, they threw another party the next day and then both sides withdrew their forces. In early 197, Yuan Shu declared himself emperor in Shuchun and founded the Zhong Dynasty. He cited superstition as his justification, including the Chinese characters for his given and courtesy names, plus the fact he was in possession of the imperial seal. He was driven by his own sense of importance, but also somewhat inspired by the humiliation of Emperor Xian now being a puppet of Cao Cao, and so felt it was also his time to make a move. At the time of the later Han and the Three Kingdoms period, it became accepted that the five powers succeeded each other, not through conquest, but through natural selection. The Han dynasty had the reign colour red and ruled through the power of fire. Following this theory, the Zhong dynasty would have reigned yellow through the power of earth, much like the natural leftovers of fire, ash, which remains on the earth once the fire is gone. Assuming the Zhong dynasty did have a reign colour, Yuan Shu may have superstitiously referred to destiny before becoming emperor. If a new emperor was in the making, he would be associated with earth. Heaven would send prophecies in accordance, such as worms, crickets, or other creatures appearing more frequently. Yuan Shao may have also adopted the colour yellow if he had created a dynasty. The name Zhong means younger, and by picking that name, Yuan Shu may have implied a courtier succession from the Han. The birth of the Zhong dynasty received no support, however, and was deemed an act of treason by the imperial court, who issued edicts to Lu Bu, Sun Ce, and Liu Bei to eliminate the pretender. Once Yuan had made himself emperor, he sent Han Yin to meet Lu Bu to escort his daughter back to carry out the agreed marriage. It was only when Chen Gui advised against it that Lu Bu sent his men to chase down the convoy, where they captured Han Yin and retrieved Lu's daughter. Angered by Lu Bu's betrayal, he sent Zhang Xun and Qiao Rui to lead an army to attack Xiapi from 7 directions. He colluded with some White Wave bandits led by Han Xian and Yang Feng, which put Lu Bu's 3,000 men in a dire situation. Lu blamed Chen Gui for not giving him very good counsel, but Chen knew the bandits were not loyal to Yuan Shu. When Lu Bu attacked the invading forces, the bandits predictably defected over to him. Yuan Shu's forces were defeated, and Lu Bu pursued them until they reached the Hua River. Many generals refused to accept Yuan Shu's act as anything but treason, which caused them to desert him. Most prominently was Sun Ce, who had conquered most of Xiangdong's territories. This dramatically reduced his influence in southern China. Yan Qiang, who served as a registrar, was among those who advised Yuan Shu against becoming emperor. A similarly named Yang Xiang also served under Cao Cao, but it's not clear if they were the same person. Rafe de Crespigny pointed out that they could be the same, and it could be assumed that Yang Xiang left Yuan Shu and defected to the Han government. Meanwhile, on the front line, Lu Bu had defeated Yuan Shu's forces north of the river, then pillaged the area. In an effort to turn the tide, Yuan sent his armies to invade Chen, but was defeated once more by Cao Cao. When Zhong's strength was reduced to a minimum, internal conflict broke out between the alliance members, which led to the Battle of Xiapi in 198. This spurred Lu Bu to renew his alliance with Yuan Shu, where he sent Wang Kai and Shu Si to petition for reinforcements. As Yuan Shu didn't immediately respond, Lu Bu soon attempted to personally sneak his daughter back out of the city to carry out the old marriage arrangement, but was blocked and had to turn back. In the autumn of 197, following the crushing defeats at the hands of his enemies, Yuan Shu's holdings north of the river were all seized by Cao Cao, whilst the rest of his territory suffered from drought and bad harvest. Yuan Shu attempted to flee east to the Dabi Hills, then north to Qing province, where Yuan Shao sent Yuan Tan to meet him. He eventually died of starvation in 199 on the way back to Shuchun after he was unable to swallow the coarse food that his soldiers ate. His final request was a glass of honey water, which had already ran out. When he arrived at Jiangting, he sat down on a bed and sighed. "Have I, Yuan Shu, come to this?" He was so downtrodden by his losses that he fell ill, vomited blood, and eventually died. Some of Yuan Shu's remaining family went with Yuan Yin to Liu Xun at Liu Xiang, but some fled to Wan instead. His followers Yang Hong and Zhang Xun planned to surrender to Sun Ce, but were captured by Liu Xun. When Sun Ce later captured Liu Xiang, Yuan Shu's family and men were all freed by him. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.